the lore around Palka Rinpoche is that it's one soul that's constantly taken births over time. This is your 8th birth?
Yes.
How has your vision of the world changed?
Now our society, we've started to put so many masks that we've forgotten our true face. You're trapped in your own cell and your ego prevents you from asking for help.
To gain peace internally. I think that's the goal of human life. But how does one even explain this idea to people still caught up in the material race for success?
I don't think everybody can be taught to become spiritual. Some people just don't have that karma from their past life.
If you get to a point of enlightenment, you have the opportunity to combine the Himalayan Buddhist deities and their consciousness.
Yes. Then you see no separation between yourself and these deities. You see them as qualities of the true nature of your mind. It's incredible.
I'm of the belief that if you actually want love, that's the energy you have to give out as well. But this is where a lot of young people end up going wrong, because in that search for love, they end up settling at just loose things.
Yes. People generally want to be loved. I think it's this hunger for love. They participate in such acts and then they get lost. What we know of happiness in the mundane world, they're not real happiness, they're pleasures. Real happiness comes from within. The moment you undertake this inward journey, then you understand how the world also functions. You are the only obstacle to achieving your happiness.
I think the world needs Buddhist philosophy right now more than ever. Born in a Hindu family, studied a lot of Hinduism, or as we call it, Sanatan Dharma, throughout my life. But discovering Buddhist philosophy was probably one of the most important additions to how I live out my professional life, how I navigate my relationships with friends and family, and just about how I look at the nature of life. I feel like I've seen some storms recently, but it was the meetings with you over the years that helped me navigate these storms much better. And that's the intention behind this episode. I hope a lot of people get introduced to Buddhist philosophy through this particular episode. And I consider you one of my biggest blessings in my life. You know, the way you entered my life and the way that's helped out my life's process. I just want to give that to every audience member. Too many mental health issues flying around all over the world. Too much self-doubt, too much emptiness. And I feel people are open to conversations that are spiritual, but just don't have access to people like you.
Yes.
Om Mani Padme.
Om Mani Padme.
Rinpoche, thank you for being with us. Would you like to begin by responding to anything that I just said?
Yeah, I think the issues in our societies, whether it's in the East or the West, because now there's not that much distinction. Before there used to be a distinction, but we live in a very much of a global society. Everything is instantly accessible right now. Before, news used to fly after weeks, months. Now it's instant. So there's not much difference between the issues we're facing in India, in the subcontinent, compared to the West or to an African country or Southeast Asian country. I think it's so many different reasons. But one thing I noticed about the Buddha's teachings, a few things I noticed about the Buddha's teachings, why they are very unique. They are universal and they are timeless. I noticed these two qualities in the Buddha's teachings. Obviously, who am I to judge Buddha's teachings? But that's my observation. Universal because it applies to everybody. Everybody has the same issues and his teachings apply to everybody. It goes beyond cultures, countries, continents, universal. Not only applies to humans, but also applies to animals, applies to every living beings. Timeless because, like you said, in today's world, more than ever, we need the Buddha's teachings, Buddhist philosophy. It's timeless. Buddha taught 2000, roughly 600 years ago. That's a long time ago. How many wars were created? How many invasions happened? How many, in Hindi, we would say Naksha change happened? How many maps have been redrawn? But the Buddha's teachings have retained their quality beyond time. So it's timeless. Universal, applies to everyone. Timeless because it's still relevant. Yeah, so I think in our societies, the issues basically remain the same. Confusion. We're confused because we don't understand the phenomena, the world that we interact with, and we also don't understand ourselves. We don't understand the object, we don't understand the subject. We don't understand these two.
This is exactly where I would like to take the conversation. This is what Buddhist philosophy helped me with. You understand the world better as well as understand yourself better to help navigate through life. The question I'd like to put in front of you is what has the teachings of Buddhism said about the purpose of human life? It can't be as simple as just make money and die.
That's a very popular question that I get asked all the time. What is the purpose of life according to Buddhism or in general? I think Buddha never actually, I haven't read all his teachings. They're like volumes and volumes. At least the canon, Buddhist canon that we study, which comes from the Sanskrit translation from Nalanda, there are 108 volumes, thick volumes.
What is it called?
It's called Kangyur, the Buddhist canon. Kangyur means Ka means command, teaching. Gyur means translation. So basically, the Buddhist canon. It has been translated into Boti, which we also know as Tibetan, but it is studied outside Tibet, in Tibet obviously, Bhutan, Ladakh, Nepal, so many different Himalayan regions. So I haven't read, I've read them all. I've received the transmission, but I haven't had time to stop and reflect on each and every one of them. There's so much of them. So I don't know, maybe in one of the scriptures, Buddha must have said, this is the purpose of your life. But jahan tak mujhe malum hai, as much as I know, from a Buddhist perspective, there is no such thing as this is the purpose of your life. I think the purpose of your life, you have to give it a purpose. You have to give it a meaning. And sometimes you are able to give it a meaning and to do something purposefully. Sometimes, even if you want to, you can't because your karmic conditions don't allow you to. You don't have the luxury to make your life purposeful or meaningful. You just have to go with the flow because you have to worry about your sustenance. You don't have the luxury, free time to do something very much that aligns with your thinking or, whatever purpose you feel there is. So I don't think from a Buddhist perspective, there is an ultimate purpose, but you have to give it a purpose.
I have to repeat a question from our Hindi episode. You said that you're technically not referred to as a monk.
Yes.
But you're referred to as?
Tulku.
What does that translate to?
It translates to, it's a Boti word, and it translates to magical born, magical body, magical birth. Basically, Nirman Kaya, it's a reincarnation. So that's the technical definition of what I am.
Do you feel like that on the inside?
Not at all. No, I don't. I feel it's a big privilege given to me by my Guruji, His Holiness, the 12th Gyalwang Drukpa. He discovered me. I belong to the Drukpa lineage. And Palgar Rinpoche has been reincarnation avatar guru of Drukpa lineage. He found me. He discovered me. I've been bestowed the blessing by him, a responsibility by him. But I've never felt very special or anything extraordinary. I've always tried to be humble, live, think of myself as a normal person and try to live like one. But that's what people believe. That's what my community believes.
Okay. I think the overarching name of this sect of Buddhism is Himalayan Buddhism. Across the Himalayas, they follow a shared sense of what Buddhism even means. And Buddhism is one of those faiths that has really spread far and wide geographically, especially in Asia. And wherever it's spread, it's taken on the nature of the local faiths as well. They've mixed into it. I have a couple of questions. The first question is, what's the commonality in all the Buddhists, right from Sri Lanka up to Japan, in China, in the Himalayas, in parts of India? And the second question is obviously with respect to the Himalayan Buddhist faith. How does this one stand out?
Okay. Common thread would be that because Buddhism, I see it as water. Buddhism is not exactly a religion like the other religions. It is not exactly a faith also because there's not that much element of believing, just raw believing. Buddhism is based almost entirely on logic. It's a very logical philosophy, a way of life. It's very difficult to define Buddhism in one word. So for the sake of conversation, people see it as a religion, and people call it a religion. But I see Buddhism as maybe the essential spiritualism. Yeah, the essence of spiritualism. That is the way I see Buddhism. And I see Buddhism or spiritualism like water. It can fit any vessel you pour it into. That is why it has been adopted by so many different regions and cultures in Asia, across Asia, over the times. That's why you see so many flavors. It's more, if you're into computers, it's like Linux. It's open source. So you can compile it in any distribution you want. You're not, stuck to Windows 95, 98, whatever it is, Windows 11. So it is more like Linux, open source, and you can compile it to any distribution you want. So Buddhism is a bit like that. So the confusion also there is because there's so many different flavors and you don't know which one you should follow, which one is right for you. The common thread between them, there's so many of them. Major common threads, you would say, we take refuge in the Buddha as the guide in some cases, and as the destination, Buddha, in some cases. We take refuge in the Dharma as the path to reach that state, to become like our inspiration. And we take refuge in Sangha. Basically, taking refuge in Buddhism can be defined as getting the help of, taking support of. So you take the support of Sangha to understand the Dharma, to become a Buddha. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. It is like going across this river, the boat and the captain or the sailor. So the sailor is like the Sangha who will help you use the boat, which will help you navigate across to the other side, which is Buddha, which is enlightenment. So that is a common thread between all flavors of Buddhism.
Can I just recap this a little bit and then please correct me if I'm thinking wrong? The overarching goal of every Buddhist, and I'd also honestly say every Sanatani,
Yes.
any of the faiths that have come out of this land, the goal is the same, which is getting out of the cycle of birth and death by reaching that point of enlightenment.
Yes.
Within Buddhism, it's believed that the Buddha or Gautam Buddha, as we know him, is the ultimate inspiration,
Yes.
equivalent of God.
Not really. We don't see the Buddha as a god. When you talk about God, you automatically think about somebody who created the world, who will destroy the world, who will punish you, who will benefit you, reward you. We don't see the Buddha in that way at all. In Buddhism, we don't have this belief in such an entity. So Buddha, to us, he was the first teacher, a great guide, a great example. And basically that's it. And he taught us how to achieve the state that he achieved. And we are trying to follow that path.
Is there any element of an omnipresent higher divinity?
Not in the same sense that you talk about God, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Not like the creator and the destroyer and the, punisher.
Could you think of it as a state of evolution for every human being?
Buddha.
This divinity. Could it be you said that the boat is rowing towards one point.
Yes.
So the goal is to get to that point of complete divinity.
Yes.
Which you can reach through enlightenment.
Yes. We call it enlightenment. When you say divinity, it's also a bit confusing from a Buddhist perspective. So we just call it enlightenment. Basically, fulfilling your potential. So right now, we think that we know ourselves. When I point my hand at you, like, what's your name? You think Rinpoche is talking to me. And my name is Ranveer. I come from such and such. I'm this and that old. That is your ever-changing identity. Your age changes. Your name that has been given to you by parents was given after your birth. That is not your essential name. And even if you feel your nature is calm, how is Ranveer? Is he a calm person? Is he an aggressive person? He's a very cool person. He's a very calm person. But depends. Depends how you agitate him. Tomorrow, if he becomes very agitated, maybe he won't be as calm. So, in that way, we think that we know ourselves. but we actually don't. Our real nature, our essential nature, doesn't have any names. It doesn't have any changing, impermanent characteristics. It is very universal. It is very pure. That is what we call enlightenment. So basically, it is like this gold hidden in a rag. So the whole process of Buddhist practices is to unravel this rag so that you see your true potential. So the journey is not very much outwards, but it's more inwards.
Understood. Okay. And as for the Sangha, right? Is it's equivalent of the people around you or the guides?
Yes. So there are different definitions of Sangha. There are different varieties of Sangha. From a very common perspective, you have monks, you have teachers, who dress like us, who practice, who study, and then try to help somebody enter the path. But then you have more evolved Sangha, like Bodhisattva, like Avalokiteshwar, like Tara. They're also Sangha because they are with you as a community. They don't see you as an exclusive. They don't see you separate. They see you as one of them. They see every sentient being. It doesn't matter which religion, which faith. As long as you're in samsara, they see you as one together. That's what we call Sangha. So these beings are highly evolved. Basically, that's you after maybe 1,000 years of evolution, let's just say, on the spiritual path. So you've gone beyond your biological forms. Your consciousness has reached a state that is very fluid, and you can take any shape and form you want. They're almost perfect beings. They're almost like supernatural beings, and they manifest in different forms, and they're beyond our comprehension. That is why we cannot see them directly. That is why we construct statues and write paintings like Tara's painting, Tara's statue, But that's what we call Sambhogakaya. That is the enjoyment body. That is the body that they live in. That is the mystical body that they live in. But to our naked eyes, you can't see it.
Is this the defining factor of Himalayan Buddhism?
Not the defining factor. Himalayan Buddhism or Vajrayana Buddhism goes deeper. So you take the idea of reaching the other side, practicing the Dharma with the help of your community. Okay? And on top of that, now what kind of Dharma do you focus on? Do you focus on the very simple ones, or do you employ many different tactics in order to reach your goal? So in Vajrayana Buddhism, it is the most skillful, method-wise, skillful Buddhism, also the very most flexible. It is a little bit like the end justifies the means. Obviously, not everything can be justified, but in terms of achieving your goal, we practice tantra, mantra, yoga, we wear yantras, we do lots of breathing practices, visualizations. So we employ almost every method possible to achieve enlightenment within one lifetime.